Welcome back. Today, we're talking about how systems and simplicity can create consistency in your business. So, um, most founders, they think that the solution to not enough leads is to create more content, but more noise doesn't mean more revenue. Today, we're discussing why you don't need new ideas. You need a better system for the ideas you already have. Our guest today is Lindsay Mayer, and I'm going to let her talk more about her. She is the owner of Cameron Communications. And we are Nate and Simone. We talk all things marketing. And before we get going, share this with another business owner friend of yours who you know needs better systems. All right, let's jump in. Hey, Nate. Hey, Lindsay.
Good
Hello,
morning.
hello. So Lindsay, I think that what your message and the things that you do are really great for our audience. Anybody that's looking to create content, and the big thing here is to try to keep from getting burnt out. I think is the biggest thing here. So Lindsay here is here to tell us we're doing too much, I think. So one of the messages here. So
Right.
um, yeah. Anyway, Lindsay, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How you got into
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, sure. My background has been in marketing operations, business operations. Over the past 20 years, I've worked in corporate, worked in kind of the healthcare, life sciences space, starting out doing marketing communications for health insurance, it was healthcare reform and got to be able to develop a lot of different communication pieces with that all unfolding. From there, I went to Covance, which is now LabCorp but did strategic campaign management. So I was really excited and to have the opportunity to work kind of across the drug development spectrum. So worked on a lot of campaigns, webinars, social media, conferences were big, and so really got global international exposure, and it was a lot of fun. From there, I went to Exact Sciences, and then that's kind of where my role changed a little bit. I got into more of internal communications and business operations, and really helped kind of cross-functional efficiencies across different platforms, as well as worked in marketing and conferences as well. And it was the end of, no, it was the beginning of December last year, just some changes, and decided that it was time to leave corporate. And so made the leap. Took a few months to just kind of figure out what was next. I wasn't sure. Helped out a former colleague and friend. She just was overwhelmed by her content and really just said, hey, let's take a look at what you have. And it really got me excited about, hey, maybe I could do this for a full-time business. So in about end of March, April, I started fully investing into Cameron Communications. And I started out thinking I was going to do more content development, but really like the strategy side. I can do the content development. I do help a lot of clients with that, as well as like the execution and operational efficiency, like on the background of helping people, if they don't have enough time just to get things scheduled or, posted and stuff like that, and building those email campaigns. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm in my first year, but I'm learning a lot, and it's just been a great experience, and meeting a lot of wonderful people along the way.
That's amazing. Well done. Well done. Congratulations for making the leap.
Yeah.
Welcome to the world of, what is it? Radical accountability, as they say.
Right?
Yeah.
It changes so
Uh,
much when you're on your own. I mean, it's
yeah.
it's
Oh
kind
yeah.
of interesting how in the corporate space you're very structured and you go on your own, and
Oh,
it's just
it's
not
a
the same
cakewalk.
anymore.
You just show up, like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. I was constantly giving my wife was formerly a government employee, and I was constantly giving her flack about that. So
Wow. Yeah. Ooh, that's talk about
yeah,
really structured. Ooh.
yeah. Um, but anyway, so Well, welcome. And this is a topic that we like to discuss a lot because it impacts one of the key things that we always talk about is which is visibility, right? Being visible to
Yeah.
the right market, hopefully the right people at the right time in the right place,
Hmm.
Um, and so that's definitely something near and dear to our hearts. And unfortunately, as it is, a lot of business owners, founders treat that visibility portion of their marketing system, well, really their business system, as
Hmm.
sort of like an afterthought, more like a
Right.
sprint,
Hmm.
and and oftentimes that leads to burnout. They have these great ideas. They start just like, oh, I'm going to be here and there and post all this kind of stuff, and it's going to be great, and then poof, it doesn't take too
Yeah.
much, I don't think,
Right.
before
Right.
life gets in the way and your business happens, you know what I mean, and everything else that you have to worry about, and all of a sudden, whoa, I don't have time for that anymore, right? So,
Right. Right.
um,
Or if you don't even
w-
have the knowledge around it as well, too. I mean, that's
yeah,
just,
oh my
I mean,
gosh,
yeah.
talk
So it's
about,
it's a you do or you don't, or it's all just, yeah, can be very
yeah,
overwhelming.
yes, totally. Um, So one of the things that you like to talk about is simplicity and how that's the key to consistency. So why do you
Mhm.
think that all these intelligent, successful business owners struggle so much to keep their marketing simple?
I think it really comes down to kind of the comparison factor or what we hear in amongst our peers or online. And, I think everyone hears like, oh, video's the next best thing and TikTok. And it's like, does it one really apply to your audience? And I always ask the question, like, because they're like, oh, I need to be on Facebook and Instagram and do a newsletter. And it's like, do you? And I think the other question
Yeah.
is, do you really have time for that? Like, what is realistic based on what you're comfortable with and what you can actually accomplish? And so I think that is just the key thing of just, I think taking a step back and, we can tend to be in comparison mode or get that imposter syndrome type thing. And I think it's just stepping back and it's like, what do we truly want to do in our business? And what do we want our messaging to be? And what fits that we can actually make a difference for ourselves and our day-to-day
think
life.
an, I think another thing too is that a lot of us are listening to these big marketing gurus, and some of them are saying, "Oh,
Right.
you should have your message everywhere and be everywhere," and
Right.
others are saying, "Oh,
Omnichannel.
Oh, I
yeah,
know.
yeah,"
Right.
and others are
Right.
saying, "Oh, just be over here, or just be over there, or just be over there, or this place is trending, so you need to get on this one," even though all of the people that you work with are over here on this one, and it's like, okay, there's a lot of noise in the
Exactly.
atmosphere and online. It's like, okay, who do you listen to, and which one is the right one for you and your business and what you're trying to do, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
confusion, so much
Yeah.
confusion.
Well, and I think you're trying to fit in that mold of like maybe big business marketing too. I mean, you're listening to some of these gurus and it's like, is that real? And they're like, oh, I post 7 times a week. Really? Is it getting you anywhere? Like, how are your metrics? Are you just doing more because you're trying to increase? And I think it's really just diving into what do you truly want to do and what's sustainable. I mean, really, it comes down to the sustainability of with all the hats that you're wearing, can you do it all and start slow and build? You can always grow into something else.
Absolutely.
There was
A lot of times I think we forget that some of these gurus have big teams that
Right.
can do anything that comes off the top of their head that they think about. They just tell somebody, and that person, it's their only job to
Yep.
just post. Right, and so it's okay,
Exactly.
it's easier for them to cover every platform, but if you're a solopreneur, you're running a very small team, and you you can't do the same thing that they can do.
Right. You
yeah.
don't have the bandwidth, the time, or sometimes even
Yeah.
the tools, that plays a
I
factor too.
I
Yeah.
would submit that there may be another, maybe a third factor here at least,
Mhm.
that relates to a Harvard Business Review article that I read not too long ago. That the essential part of it says that business owners understand that they need to think strategically about their business, but they're too caught up in being busy because that makes
Mhm.
them
Yep.
important. So
That's true. Yep. Yep.
they're
Yeah.
equating busyness with importance. So there's
Hmm.
that too.
Yeah.
If you're
That's
doing all
true.
this posting and stuff, you must be busy, you must be important, right?
Must be
So I don't
busy,
know.
right?
Yes.
If
Maybe
your
Yes.
that's part of it.
calendar is covered from, from top to bottom, oh, you must be very important. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you're
Yeah,
overwhelmed. That's what that is.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and I
yeah.
think a lot of that comes from, and if I can just dive back into the past, and I think a lot of that comes from corporate life too. I mean, people who
Oh
have
yeah.
become entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, that was the structure. I mean, that's how you
Quick, the
earned your
boss is coming. We gotta look
promotions.
busy. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
or just,
Yeah.
when you're talking to your colleagues and it's like, oh, I'm doing all these amazing things. Oh, okay,
yeah.
great. Like you're really needed, kind of thing versus
Hmm.
I like the busyness. I think it's partially that, and I think it's just
Yeah,
partially like the culture, the work
yeah,
culture to some degree
yep,
as well.
totally. So, speaking of,
Yeah.
your background is in operational efficiency. So, how does that apply to marketing in this case? Are you finding that a lot of people are treating their content too much like art and not enough like operations? Or
I wouldn't go like I don't want to lose the sight of creativity with content because I think there is just you have to pull it out of that creative side of you to some degree. I think where people are really lacking is just that structure of, I can do the post, I can write the content. I just don't know where to start kind of thing. And so I really think it's partially kind of the project management manager in me too, just because in my throughout my career, marketing departments were super small. You had to wear a ton of different hats. And so you had to be organized in order to make sure you accomplished all of your tasks and deliverables and things like that. And so I think just sometimes that's the piece that's missing of, hey, I can develop the content, I have these great ideas, but the great ideas tend to sit and don't move forward because there's that lack of structure of when do I post it? Where does it fit in? Where should it be on? Should it be a video? Should it be, a outline, a graphic? Like there's so many elements that even if it's creative and you can do that, there's still other things to think about that maybe are is what can be holding you back. So I think the operational side is like I love it hand in hand. I mean, I love the creative side, but I'm such an organized person too that it's like it fits with me. It's just kind of been my way of working majority of my career just because it's what I needed to do in order to accomplish the things that I need to accomplish.
yeah. So, speaking to that structure,
Yeah.
what are the symptoms that you see in businesses that are lacking that structure, especially around the content?
They fail to post, they fail to deliver, they freeze. It's like, oh, I wrote this, but now where do I put it? Or I know some clients or people that I know have I developed this calendar and I just have ideas for the days, but it never gets any further than that. And so I really think it's like too much pressure by just creating content and not having that, oh, where do I put it? Where does it live? Who does it fit with? How does it fit into my overall strategy? Um,
Mhm.
you're just posting, like it's great. I mean, sometimes those one-off posts are great. It's just a thought you had and you're moving forward. But I think it limits you and the consistency that you can have and that visibility that you can create because you did it, but now what do you do with it? Kind of thing. Or you post it and you're
Mhm.
done and you move on. So there's not that consistency or consistent messaging as
Mhm.
well.
So you heard it here, folks. Consistency builds the trust in your audience. Random acts of marketing destroys it. So
Yeah.
make sure we're staying on task here.
Yeah, no,
Um,
definitely.
okay, so let's get into viability.
Sure.
Try to organize the conversation around the three pillars that was talking about
I
here.
love it. I
So
love it. Structure.
exactly. Wow, look at that.
See?
So for viability here, what we're
Yeah.
talking about with viability, can the business survive on its own two legs? Can it survive the workload that is required for a content marketing program? You know,
Hmm.
if the business owner has to write a new blog post every day to get leads, is that really viable, you know, for most business owners? You know, that seems like it might be getting into trickiness there.
Yeah.
So, go, you believe that we should use existing content rather than creating new content. So can you walk us through that? If I have one great piece of content, so like let's say a webinar, a podcast, for example,
Hmm.
a white paper, maybe a case study, whatever that may be,
Yeah.
what should I actually do with it, or what can I do with it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times those large content things like you just mentioned that like webinars or people do presentations for conferences or speaking engagements, things like that. Those are, I mean, think about how many slides or how many pages are in that and how much content. And so
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's really people don't realize all they're like, oh, I just did this presentation on X. It's like, yeah, but like how many things did you have in there that you talked about, like key points? And so my advice is really just pulling that apart. What are like the meaty things, or I like to say, like, are you giving tips, like here's the 5 steps to do whatever, or here's a key definition of something. Like find those key messages within of the different topics when you're building out either white paper, like you're doing outlines, like each of those sections could be another content piece where I think people look at it as a whole and they're like, oh, I have this webinar that I did on content marketing, repurposing, we'll just say. There's so many
Mhm.
components that make up the build of that final thing. And I think it's just looking and pulling out those nuggets of information is really where people can use that content in many different ways.
I have a confession to make.
Yeah.
I saw a video once where it was excuse me, content marketing person guru, whatever you will,
Sure.
um, and they said that video is the key, right? And this is actually part of the impetus for making this podcast as a
Yeah.
video even. But
Yeah.
from video you can create so much from
Hmm.
that because there's just
Hmm.
so much there, right?
Right.
Um, is that something that you advocate for quite a bit, or pardon me?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's those things that are longer in length.
Yeah.
So, if you're doing video, there's so many different segments of that video. Because like it kind of comes back to, and maybe this is the structure piece of you create the outline to what do you want that video to be if it's longer in length. And it's like think about each one of those sections that you built, you can pull out and have that be content that lives on its own, whether it's a blog
Mhm.
post or just, social posts or a shorter video, like you were talking about with this podcast, you use snippets. I mean, you can
Yeah.
there's different chunks of it that you can pull apart. And so, yeah, I think leverage the heck out of the content that you have. I mean,
Yeah.
people only, you think about like social and different places, it takes people 7 times to see things before it really sticks. So I think people get
Mm.
worried that like, oh, they've seen this before. I highly doubt it. And if they did,
Mm.
it might just strike a thing of like, oh yeah, I got to connect with her or him, or, that
Yeah.
reminds me of something. So yeah, I think
Hmm.
pull it apart, use it as much as you can.
Yeah. The social media and whatnot is the proverbial memory hole, right? It's just
Yeah.
I've heard that you could post as many as 3 or 4 times to X, for example, and the likelihood that the same people are going to see it more than once is very low. So
Right, exactly. And
yeah,
so, but I think that's sometimes people's fear of like, that's
yeah,
where like the new content comes in is, oh, I've already done this. I can't do it again because,
yeah,
it's like, oh, I wore this sweater yesterday and somebody might see
yeah,
that I wore
Right.
this sweater
yeah,
And
yesterday,
we're all looking at it from our own perspective, and we're thinking that because I see everything I post, that everybody
yeah,
else is seeing
exactly.
everything I post, and that's not
Totally
Exactly.
true.
different. You got to take
Yeah.
yourself outside of yourself and kind of look at
I
yourself from
know.
outside, and think about it that way. Yeah.
And I think
Hard
that's
to
where
do.
where it comes in too, of just having somebody outside looking at,
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
your
that'd
I
be a
mean,
lot easier.
tapping in. I know it's amazing because it's like even trying to market yourself. I was talking about that. So
Yeah.
it's like it's harder to do what you do for yourself than it is to go into somebody else's content library and be like, use this, and this. It's just,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. All right. So, so you talked about organization in your intake, and it sounds like you're very into structure, right? So, what does a simplicity system, what does that look like? Is it a spreadsheet, folder structure? Where do we start?
I mean, I really, with my clients, I say simple is better. So whatever works with you. I usually would start with them with just a simple spreadsheet. I've done before with different clients where it's like, just take a spreadsheet and start documenting all the content that you already have. I mean, it takes a little bit of time, but like see what you have, just put that in and you'll get some ideas off of it. But when I help clients of mine, it's really, I have a really simple content calendar template that I use. And it's either in Google Sheets or Excel. And it's very simple, but I think like we mentioned, I think before, of just simple is easier to follow. But if you're a
Mhm.
person who likes, project management platforms or software, I mean, use what works for you because that's what you're
Yeah.
going to be consistent with. But for people who are like, I use my calendar or whatever, it's like, okay, let's just start with a spreadsheet and then you can figure out where it fits best for you. But yeah, it's really just, getting organized with where's your content. I think that's a big thing, especially with people using Canva too. It's like organize your stuff in folders. But then when you're going to build your content strategy, do a simple spreadsheet. A few
Hmm.
columns can get you, I just worked with a client, she was putting stuff on her calendar and she really didn't get any further than that and
Hmm.
helped her with this template. And it was like, oh my gosh, now I have direction. And it's very simple.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just different columns of just fill in the blank kind of thing. And maybe
Hmm.
I can say it's simple because I do it,
Hmm.
but I just think simple is easier for people to follow. If it gets too complicated, they get stuck, they get overwhelmed, and it just doesn't move them forward. So really for me, it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's the basic software pieces that everybody's used to. And if it's a Word document with a table, do that. I mean, do what works for you. Like I said, it's going to be what you're going to feel comfortable to be consistent with.
Yeah.
If it's easy
Google.
to follow, you'll actually do it, and
Exactly.
and
Yep.
that's the point. Because one of the things that so many entrepreneurs have an issue with is execution. They don't actually do anything. There's all the ideas, and I'm putting
Yep.
out all this, I'm generating all this content, but it doesn't actually get out there. But if you have a simple system that you can follow that's super easy, then it's more likely that you'll actually do it. And it's the execution is where you get the results.
Right. Because I know a lot of different people are like, oh, I have this folder, this document of all the ideas. I'm like, okay, let's tap into it. Let's move it into, like you said, the execution component. Let's give you the structure that you need to be able to actually develop that and execute on it.
I'm I use AI. I'll start
Oh,
start off by saying
okay.
that.
That's okay.
So using AI, um, what I tell my clients is, AI is great. It's a tool like any other, right?
Hmm.
Try building a house without a hammer, for example, right?
Right.
But think of all the damage that you can do with a hammer if you don't use it correctly. So, you know?
Right.
And
Right.
so, same token, right? You could do a lot of damage if you're not using AI correctly. One of the great things that I found, great uses, especially in Google, right, is Google
Hmm.
Sheets plus Gemini. Tell it to build a table for me. You know,
Hmm.
wow, that's a magic. That is a great use of AI, in my opinion. Being
Hmm.
able to do that, I love that. But anyway, that's one of my organizing tricks. But um, I also like to use the para organization method in my Google Drive. I have
Okay.
para is an acronym: projects, areas, resources, and archive, and then break down it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is classified under that. So the parent method. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I like it. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. We're kind of like two birds of a feather here, I guess. Talk about organization.
It's
Yeah. Okay. All right. So how can we maintain our momentum? And I think that's a word from your biography, without experiencing constant pressure.
I mean, I think it's using those templates. So either, if it's your power system, a simple spreadsheet, that kind of thing, if you start mapping it out, you're going to get that consistency and that momentum because you're going to have it. And I don't want to seem like it's inflexible. I mean, we all own our own businesses. We can, something comes up, it's not, but when you have it tracked by this is the day that I'm going to post, or I'm going to create X, and this is the day it's going to go out, there's a little bit more drive to do it than just notes on a calendar of like create email to advertise holiday sale. And so I think by taking that time and pulling apart existing content, or just even thinking through some of those like themes, we talk a lot about with the holidays, like, do you want to focus on it? Some people want to do, or especially now, like Black Friday sales and things like that. Putting it all down creates that momentum because it gives you all the things that you need to then all you have to do. And I say all you have to do, but it makes it a lot easier to create the content than it does just, hey, I have this idea. Now what do? I look at a blank screen and think about what I want to do. So by mapping it out into just key, like, what's your topic? What are your key messages? What kind of pillar or theme does this follow based on your strategy? Where do you want to post this? That just gives people the guidance that they need to be able to take that next step, which then creates that momentum. And you fill that all out, you have a whole month's worth. And I too, I mean, I know some people do like marketing Mondays, the first Monday of the month they dedicate. I don't know if you have to do that. I mean, take it week by week, do what works for you. If you're like, I can't sit down and create, 20 posts in a day, do enough for the week and move on, get them scheduled and be done. Like, it doesn't have to be. And I think that's where the pressure gets in of like, oh, I have to do all this stuff and get it all done. Take it at your pace. It's your business. How does it work for you? And really just having that guidance to keep you moving is all that I really instill in people, or help them grow by just getting that consistency. What are they comfortable with and what can they commit to? It's kind of one of my questions of, is this realistic? That's many times I'll ask, is this realistic? Can you do this? And then they think about it and they're like, no. Okay, good. Let's figure out. Let's figure out what is possible.
You're already thinking of ways not to do it, so yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. There's so many ways to be like tomorrow, or I'll put it on my calendar and something else comes up. But we all do it. I mean, it's life.
Totally. I used to try to do the batching for the entire month or several months at a time, and it was like, it was just like, I cannot do this. But what I found helped me was when I could connect it back to and constantly be reminded of, this is why I'm doing this, right? It fits into what I'm doing. It's part of my goals. Are you prodding your clients along by reminding them of their goals? Do you think that's handy or?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times too, people need like I've heard accountability buddy. Accountability. I think a lot of times it's just that, you can put it down and then it's like, hey, how's it going? Where are you stuck? That kind of thing. Just kind of that support of, hey, I'm not here to like rat you out because you didn't do a post last week. What support do you need? Do we need to do a little bit more information? And I think bringing it back to like the existing content, if you're not having to think through a whole content calendar for a month, and you can simply just take things, pull it apart, and it's almost written for you to some degree. Like if you, either or your videos, or, you're pulling apart a white paper. I mean, a lot of that content's already written. It's just, doing a little tweaking. So it makes it so much easier than having to develop something from scratch. And that's where I think like people aren't leveraging the existing content they have, they're recreating. And that's what's taking the time and the overwhelm it sets in of, ugh, this is too much, I'm moving on.
Totally. So this is, viewers out there, this is exactly what we mean by building out an engine in your business, right? You're turning this one asset into many different touch points. Leverage, right? Leverage is another keyword that we like to talk about
I
here.
know.
So you're creating leverage here. So all right.
Leverage is one of my favorite words. I
Yes,
know that.
indeed. I was about to say
Yeah.
that. This is something that Simone likes to talk about a lot.
That's
All
great.
right. Okay, so let's get into the long game here about building a valuable business. How does this fit in here? So, this is the kind of the third pillar that we always talk about. So valuation, value, whatever you want to say, interchangeably. That's about building an asset in your business that has worth, right? Rather than just a high-paying job that you've built for yourself, right?
Right.
And having a library of organized content could be an asset, especially if it's kind of evergreen content that could just kind of keep going and be recycled, right? And if so like a business owner who may be like stressing over their Instagram caption, that could be considered a liability to some degree, right? Rather than an asset.
Yeah. That person needs to be doing some better more high value activities than stressing over captions.
It's just, it's like move on, post it and move on.
Yeah,
Go to the next thing.
My personal mantra, once I started doing my business and doing my own content and everything, is done is better than perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that really helped a lot with me. But
and that's hard to do too. I mean,
it
really,
is,
like it's really hard,
especially if you're a perfectionist like me. So it's
sign me
real
up.
hard.
Yep, I'm right there.
Yeah. So when you have a business owner who finally gets this, right, the repurposing engine, and they get it running in their business, what changes do you see in their day-to-day, or do they see in their day-to-day?
I think they get time back. I mean, they get to focus on other areas of their business that they want to be present in. Because I think that a lot of times content can consume them from I need to do this, but I'm spending so much time on it, or I'm spending time and not and spinning my wheels kind of thing. I just know that someone that I worked with, she had so much content, we were able to map out a year and a half's worth of content.
Wow.
And her content calendar, she had that much stuff that we could just pull apart and recreate, and just, it gave her time back. Like she just had she had so much stuff she didn't realize that she had, and we mapped it all out, and it just, and the other thing too is, it's one thing if you're, a solopreneur and you're like doing it all yourself, but a lot of times when people start scaling, they give it to somebody else. So that really helped her too, of like, she could hand over a plan to somebody else to take the ideas and run with it. So it not only helps you in your business of, hey, this is all mapped out. I can just kind of lift and shift and get it where it needs to be. It doesn't have to be perfect, just done. Gives you some of that time back versus overthinking it. But then also if you're to a point where you're like, I can't sustain this anymore, I need to hire somebody, it's a good way to pass it on to somebody else and give them the direction that they need without you having to be totally involved in everything.
Yeah, here's the keys, right? Boom.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it's like, here's the topic, here's kind of the key message, here's where I want it, here's kind of the image or the graphic or the video that I want to go with it, that's much easier than, hey, I have this idea, we should create an email about X, Y, and Z. Okay.
How are we going to do that? Where are we going to do that?
I know. And then it doesn't turn out anything that you want. So, twofold. It can help you out with your space, but then also, like I said, if you're ready to hand that over to an intern or whomever, it just provides a better way of doing that you can feel comfortable with how your messaging is moving forward.
We had a couple of weeks ago, we had somebody that helps business owners with their exit planning.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things that we discussed during that conversation was how difficult it can be sometimes for owners to give up that ownership role, right? Is
Yep.
this, do you find friction when people realize that you're kind of taking this content production away from them, or are they just happy and relieved mostly?
Um, it can be a little bit of both. Like there's
Yeah.
some people who are like, you know what? I know I need to do this and I just don't have the time and I kind of don't want to do it anymore. So take it. I trust you. I feel comfortable. Move it forward. We're good. There's other people who are more ingrained into their brand. And so that's when I think it's really hard to let go is when it's
Mhm.
your persona or it's really your voice and
Yeah.
it's very unique. It's very hard to replicate and hand that off and people get it's very personal to them. Not that people's businesses aren't, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's just easier to be like, here's all my ideas, go. We've got the same kind of tone and
Hmm.
structure and background and we're good. But
Hmm.
yeah, there can be times where it's very personal and it's very hard. I mean, I think about it and I'm like, I don't know if I could ever I mean, part of it
Hmm.
is just having control and letting go of some of that control, but it just
Yeah.
depends how deeply ingrained you are in your brand that if you're willing
Hmm.
to make some exceptions and know that it's not exactly going to be you. It's going
Yeah.
to be a version of you, but it's never going to be exactly you.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it sounds like you almost need to do some counseling there, Lindsay, potentially.
I know sometimes it's very
Huh.
personal. I mean, I know people who like start a business and it's very personal to them and I get it. I totally
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
And but then I also think too that maybe you're not ready for that step yet.
Mm,
Maybe you
yes,
need to
indeed.
figure
Yeah.
out some other things that you can shift that maybe you don't
Hmm.
like to do as much. Maybe you're really like this piece and you're just not ready to give it up.
What you do does not fit, it's not a fit for everyone, right? So
Right.
there's some people who are
Yep.
just are not ready. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Um,
exactly. And that's okay. I mean, that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So one of the things that you talk about too is bringing empathy to your projects.
Hmm.
So how does having a clear content system actually help us connect better with our audience through empathy, like rather than just blasting them with a bunch of, hey, look at this,
Yeah, by having that structure and like I mentioned, kind of those key like columns or like buckets of information that you can kind of fill out, it really starts making you think through what you're sharing. And then I think you really start digging into your audience and what this means and how it all connects. Because, I think a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to post on this. And it's like, it's great to have it all connected. And that's where I think you can make a difference. So, I think sometimes people like to hear like, oh, well, do a blog and then do an email that's that similar topic and then do social posts off of that. It all really works together. And that's where I think it can really work well for your audiences because they're seeing it in multiple places and they're really getting the message. And so I think just that planning aspect and just some of those key, like I say, simple things that help you really think through what you're saying, where you're saying it, and who you're saying it to. You're really just because then you're going back to your goals too. I mean, does this align with what I said in my messaging and my tone? And is this where I want to do, or am I just kind of shifting a little bit because, this is a unique event I want to do, and but it still has to fit with your brand. And so I think that helps of the consistency with messaging and then just having a larger view of what that looks like because to really make sure then it's saying what you want to say based on the needs of your audience and your target market.
Is if I'm a business owner and I'm just kind of generating stuff using ChatGPT,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that generally speaking that is empathetic, or does it really require some good thinking behind it?
I think,
Human
oh, the
thinking.
AI thing is such a
This,
thing.
this is kind of a leading question, but
No, no, that's okay. I mean, I don't. I know people are like, I just don't like to write. So how do I do this kind of thing? And
Mhm.
AI can really help them. But I think where it's starting to lose is, what is your brand voice? What is your
Yeah.
tone? Are you empathetic and compassionate, or are you professional and execution? Like that still has to come through, and AI can help you with that, but it still has to feel like it's coming from you. And so if you're just constantly feeding AI, like, here's ideas and taking it verbatim, it's not going to feel the same as if you put some thoughts and ideas together from your own perspective and then got maybe some refining from AI versus having it take, oh, here, create a post on. And if it's something simple, like I need just a quick announcement post, probably okay. But if it's
Yeah.
getting into deeper content of how you're relating to your audience, I think you still have to make sure it's coming from you and how you sound. Otherwise, it'll sound very disconnected.
Mm. Okay.
And
So,
somebody say that when you're using AI is always just, your first draft. It's gonna need to be refined and edited,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
you have to put your own experiences, your own stories, and uh, your own voice into it, because that which can kind of come into, um, I guess, if you're trying to have a system of generating lots of content and batching content so that you can, just schedule out, um, then using AI it can generate lots, but then now there's the work of sitting down and editing it and refining the messages that are coming out of it. Well,
Yeah.
that's going to be time consuming too, isn't it?
Yeah, that's where I think, like, if you have key points or thoughts and just put it in your own tone and give it to AI and say, help me polish this, help me make it better. I know a lot of times if I put stuff in, I'm like, okay, can I improve upon this, for my own stuff? And a lot of times it'll be like, oh, I made shorter sentences because that's what I like on LinkedIn. I'm like, but that's not my tone. Like, I know there's things that they need for certain platforms, but I'm like, then it doesn't sound like me. And so I'm
Mm.
like, I'm keeping it how it is. I
Mm.
just like to see, are there different ways of, maybe it's a little too wordy or something like that to help clean it up. But there's also times too where I'm like, no, thanks. That's not my style, is this. And I think you have to be true to your style as well and not be dependent on, oh, this is what LinkedIn wants. Does it?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean,
Right.
Yeah.
so yeah,
That's
I think,
true. There's a difference between writing for the platform and writing to actual people.
yeah, yeah. And I'm a storyteller. And so you can't, like, I just tend to like to share my story and how it evolved. And AI tends to want to chop it up in, oh, shorter sentences and keyword. And I'm like, but I'm telling a story. Like,
Mhm.
there's a different way of doing, of doing that. So you just have to
Mhm.
pick what fits for you, but still be, it has to feel like you and it has to be consistent. So, if
Right.
you throw it into AI, I know if you purchase like Chat GPT, it'll start saving, and get to know your voice. But if you're just doing it random, you're going to get random things that aren't going to be tied together. And I think that's where it's going to start feeling a little bit wonky.
Yeah. I mean, there are
I did
people
have a
that do this for a living. They set up Chat
yeah.
GPT to be your voice and clone, of you and all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
starts to sound very generic
Yeah.
yeah, ChatGPT has its own isms, and so you can
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so sometimes you can, um as the content is coming out of it, you can start to see the patterns and
Mhm.
realize, like, okay, let's change up how this
Yeah.
looks and how this feels, right?
Well, and I
I
know,
did want to
okay.
ask you a question about, like, when you were talking about empathy earlier. Um, do you advise your clients at all about, the as they're putting out content, how to get, make it a more two-way conversation so that they're actually getting feedback from the audience as well as putting out content to the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where, I mean, I'm just an empathetic person. So when I say empathy, it's like how I work with my clients too, of just I'm very of meet you where you are and want to help you the best way that I can to be successful. Yeah, I think the content comes down to of em empathetic and how do you have those, you know, a lot of times it's putting in the questions at the end. How do you get that interaction, or um, how do you make them feel? You know, I think it's like telling your story, but I think that's one thing that I always like to check in to, even with myself, is am I just telling a story, or am I sharing my empathy or my guidance for those that I might want to work with? And so I think that's really important too with working with clients and their content, of just making sure that yeah, they are thinking a thing. It's really easy to put your own lens on it and not think about the audience. And so I think it's just how do we make this about you, but make this about them too? And is that so? Yeah, long story short, Simone, is yes. I think it's looking at what do you want to say, but then how do you make it meaningful on the other side too?
One of my
Yeah, because I think
favorite.
that's one of the things that, sorry, that's one of the things that I feel like when as we're putting out content to the world and to our audiences, that it's important to hold space for what they want to say back and to give back and to take that into account.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have to look at them and where they are, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll, if we open up that space for them to tell us, they'll let us know, because sometimes we're thinking, oh, they want this, and so this is what we're going to give them, and from their perspective they're like, no, I don't want that. I
Yeah.
want this other thing over here. Yeah.
Well,
So the
and
question becomes, what is it that they really do want, right?
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I
Yeah,
think
that's
even
why
Understanding
having that
that.
asking them.
conversation is a great thing to do, because
Mhm.
they'll tell you.
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
think doing polls too, I think people are kind of afraid of that a little bit because they're afraid of what the results or the feedback might be. But I mean, that's how you really learn about what people want. Ask them, you know, create a poll of like what would be most helpful and let them tell you. And then you can follow up and say, hey, this is what I heard was, you know, majority of people who voted said overwhelm was their number one thing with content. Okay, then you start serving up those tips and things like that to how do you reduce the overwhelm.
There, a couple of things with that. One is um, there was a famous marketer, and her name escapes me right at the moment, but she says, I love using AI for my audience research. And partly because the AI can actually function as it can get into the other person's shoes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Theoretically speaking. But and then going off of that is, are you familiar? We've talked about this a lot, but it's one of my favorite things in the world. Are you familiar with the one sentence persuasion course? Have you heard of this?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, it's by a guy named Blair Warren, and he is this famous, well, I don't think he's famous, but he was a
Okay.
copywriter for 20 plus years. And
Okay.
He may have been
he
famous
wrote,
years ago,
well,
but he
Yeah.
yeah,
may not be famous now.
yeah, that's probably
All
what it
right.
is. He
Okay.
wrote a book where he distilled all of his copywriting knowledge into
Okay.
one sentence to get anybody to do anything that you want, right?
Mm.
Interesting. Okay.
Through copy, right? And
Okay.
he says, and I encourage you to check it out and read it, but people will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. So, so if your goal is to motivate your readers to do something, to take an action, if you're able to accomplish those things, it buys you into their world, right? And
Yeah.
they see you in as someone that they could trust, essentially. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
idea.
Yeah, no, that's right. Like vulnerability is a big piece
Yeah.
in my own of just sharing my stories or here's what I'm struggling with. Just
Hmm.
entrepreneurs need that companionship of, hey, I'm not in this alone. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm want to help with too.
Yeah. So for the business owner who's sitting out there on 5 years of content in their Google Drive, what do they need to do tomorrow morning to get going?
Oh, open it up and
Mm.
dust it off. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, it was interesting as thinking about this question, and I think it's really like just go back in, because I think it's kind of like when you're cleaning out your closet and you're like, oh, I didn't know I had this. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that thing. I think just opening up that folder or going into that and seeing what you already have, because I think a lot of people forget, oh, yeah, I created that blog, 2 years ago. Or I think too, tap into your website. Like people don't use the content on their website enough
Mhm.
of like to drive them back and learn more. You can do a little snippet and then drive them back to that. But back to it, open that folder and just get an idea of what you have. Pick one of the things you're like, oh, I forgot that I had, and start looking for some of those key points that you can pull out. That would be my advice. But just dive into that folder and see what you have.
That's really great. Um, so that's like I know a lot of people have that. Like, we tend
Mhm.
to we have ideas and we collect
Yep.
so much, so having being able to go back. And a lot of times I think one of the things I saw in here when we were putting together the outline, like one of your messages was like, you don't need new stuff. Just go in and work with what you already have. And I thought, oh my goodness, let the church say amen, because, we,
Yeah.
um, so many people that I worked with, like, oh, this isn't selling, or, this isn't doing anything. So let me create something new. It's like, do you have to create something new? What about if people haven't seen what you already have, how can you say it doesn't work? How can you say that they don't want it?
Right.
They
Yeah.
don't know what's even there.
Right. And I think a lot of times you, as the owner of it, don't know what's there. And,
Yeah.
maybe some of it needs a little tweaking or refreshing or that kind of thing, but that's much easier than building it all over. And I know people have a lot of content. They just don't realize that, like, oh, I can tap, like, it's okay. I just wrote a LinkedIn post this week about, do you need permission? Have you asked for
Mm,
permission? You have permission to go and reuse it. Just
absolutely.
dig
Because,
in and yeah.
chances are enough people haven't seen it.
Oh, right. And even if they have, I mean, you wrote it, maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Resurface it, put a different spin on it. Maybe there's a new angle to it, or you have a different opinion about what you wrote and you can comment on that now of, hey, I thought this, but now in my X number of years as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, um, I feel this is what's changed. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just so many. It gets me so excited.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
yeah.
being with us today. So basically, so what we talked about today is you don't necessarily have to create new content or new products, new offers. Um, Go back into that vault that you've been holding on to, and maybe there's more value in there that you can squeeze out of it. Also, making sure that you are organized. When you're organized, it's so much easier to be consistent, and keep it simple. The simpler your systems are, the easier they are to execute. And we know execution is where you win, because, having all these great ideas is wonderful, but uh, if they never see the light of day, then you don't know for sure if they're going to work, and you don't know whether people want it or not. Um, you know, and we want to be consistent because consistence equals visibility. We know that everybody's not gonna see the one time you post about something. You have to post multiple times. I think Google has this framework they call for visibility and building know, like, and trust. They call it it's their 7-11-4 framework. People have to spend 7 hours with you over 11 touches, 4 platforms. So, and that doesn't necessarily mean 4 social media platforms. It can be 2 social media platforms, plus email, plus phone, plus text, kind of thing. It can be a few hours on YouTube, seeing some videos of you on you talking about that same topic on Instagram or Facebook or, but being able to repeat yourself is very is very helpful, because not everybody's going to see the one time you post something. So thank you so much, Lindsay, for being here with us. So tell our listeners where they can find you.
Sure. You can find me at CameronComm.com. So CameronComm.com is my website. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Instagram. So yeah, check out what I offer, and would love to partner with people if they're looking for that efficiency and support.
Wonderful. Well, we will put the link in the description so that you have it. And we want to remind you that if you learned something today, tell us what you learned. What's your biggest takeaway? Put that in the comments. And we want to make sure that you, if you have, you're tired of chaos and you want to build a system in your business, we'll put the links to take our growth assessment and to book a call with us in the description as well. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for being here. And it looks like Nate had some issues and he dropped out, but he's back.
Got back.
So
I got back in.
Yay!
Right back in. But thank you so much for being here with us today, and we'll see you next time.